a limitation on transfers. But I do think the windows make sense. Although when I do hear the term transfer windows, and I've heard the term relegation as it pertains to, what the future looks like and all that, and I've seen so many college football writers over the years on podcasts or stories talk about the comparison with the Premier League and all that. I don't know. I'm not a big soccer fan. I understand the appeal of Premier League and Champions League and all that comes with that, and how big business and big sports that is. And I understand, too, the comparisons with the, younger athletes and how that works overseas in soccer versus how that works here in the States, where, yes, if you're 17 years old, you could be tell me if I'm wrong, but you could basically be insuring your future and signing for millions of pounds or whatever the monetary, value is wherever you're signing up, but to go play for Manchester United, And the thing that's interesting about soccer players is how quickly, in most cases, their careers die out, where you're like in your 30s and you're starting to become an old man, right? But you start off pretty young. And I don't disagree with, you can't compare that to college athletics, but I don't know, just the full-blown, we're going to be the Premier League and turn college football into that. I don't know how on board I am with that, but that's been swirling for years now, and there's been plenty of proponents who are clearly soccer fans and love the way it works there and want it to work with their other favorite sport, but I don't like the whole exact comparison, but that is a sport that has transfer windows, and I do think college football has been in need of a transfer window. I think, yes, the coaches have had it all basically to themselves, as far as free reign for decades now at this point. So it's about time to take some things away from them or the universities and all that. But you got to have some sort of order, something. And, when there is no window and you can basically just at any moment in time just throw your name in that portal, and the only punishment that might come with that is you're either allowed to go or you might have to sit a year, which is what the rules were, is if you didn't do it in by a date, then you lost your year to play immediately.
Yeah, that's even been dissolved.
But basically, that was basically bogus, so that meant nothing. So I do like having a couple of windows just so you have an idea of who the hell's on your team.
Yeah.
It got so ridiculous that in theory, you could lose a dude the week before the season starts who's an important player for you. It wasn't often or ever that happened, but were we going to head that way? Yeah, absolutely, with no sort of dates established. So I like this rule.
253, hello again from Seattle. Not sure if you have discussed it, but what do you think about the promotion relegation idea? Here's the problem I have. Let's say I'm not a fan of it. I'm not. So you mean to tell me, let's say how many teams are there, Paul? How many teams would be a part of this? 60, 50, whatever, 39 or 100, doesn't matter. So let's say there's a relegation. And let's say, and I know this is far-fetched, but let's say in 5 years, Nick Saban has finally won his last 3 or 4 or 5 national championships and leaves. And Alabama goes through kind of what they've done in the 80s or whatever, and they go 4-8, and then 2-10. They going to be relegated?
No, that's not how, And, of course, this is the relegation system is years and years. They're not going to get –
I know.
Yeah, but that –
it's still a pick and choose
The
thing.
reason that in England you're fine with the relegation system is because you grew up with it. Because you know how that's how it works. If all of a sudden Alabama or LSU or Florida or Oklahoma State got relegated, I don't think people would take it very well because they didn't – it's hard for – there's a reason we haven't completely wrapped our arms around soccer in this country. We don't.
But the same people have been telling us for 30 years, it's coming, baby. It's the highest growing youth sport in America. I heard that 20 years ago.
Look, we only get it a little bit. The metric system makes way more sense than what we use than standard, but we tried that and let it go after a little while. It's just not going to happen.
That's the thing with relegation is Alabama's never going to be one of the lowest placing teams, no matter what. So it doesn't even matter. They're never going to be at the bottom because guess who's going to be at the bottom? Vanderbilt or whoever. And I know we keep picking on them, but it's just the name that comes to mind.
They've set up the system so they don't fall that far.
Yeah. That's the whole game, Paul. Yeah. You look at all the rules being passed. Mm-hmm. It's all being set up for the benefactors ultimately, which is going to be these. I don't know. We haven't talked about it at all today. There's this whole movement with Sean Clifford and Kevin Warren, the Big Ten, talking player union, or that's the word union was thrown out and then very quickly retracted. I wonder why. And then some word salad of no, not really a union yet, but Sean Clifford apparently met with Kevin Warren, had a phone call or representatives and whatever, and there's Kevin Warren now on the record saying that they're exploring, potential partnership with the players. And some will say that a players union is long overdue. Again, they retracted the word union like immediately when that article came out, which is kind of funny. Sean Clifford just posted something. I haven't had the time to read it. For those that don't know, Penn State quarterback, where he clarified some things. Says, had very positive and open discussions with Coach Franklin, the Penn State AD, Commissioner Warren, about the changing landscape and how those changes are and will continue to impact student athletes. It is important to state my dialogues with my coach, AD, and commissioner were conducted as a student athlete. To characterize my dialogues as being on behalf of a union or as a union member would be inaccurate. So I guess he's got to clear the air so that there's not any, ramifications from it. But that's another direction that we're probably headed, especially when you're going to hear the Big Ten is going to be making $1 billion plus from whatever networks sign up. There's going to be eventually equal distribution or revenue sharing of some sort, I would think, with the players. Is every league going to be able to do that?
No.
Who can afford to probably do that? The two leagues that we keep talking about. So I say all that to say, well, that's another potential earthquake type of move that would alienate some haves and have-nots right away, but also change the landscape. And like I'm saying, basically, is all of this is for the benefit of leagues and schools like that. It's not for the benefit of Lafayette.
Yeah. Roger Dodger makes a good point, more. How are you going to regulate a college have a $100 million contract to a lesser payout? It's not happening. So the only way a relegation would work is if you can get colleges to admit that Alabama gets the same amount of money that Oklahoma State gets, that Washington gets, that Rutgers gets. Everybody would get that, and there's no conferences anymore. It's just everyone. That's why
Super League.
That's where relegation would work. But again, they've pretty much told you we're not doing that.
Well, never say never.
Yeah, nothing's off the table. All right, when we come back, Paul